All right, so welcome into the live stream today. As you guys got a chance to see our new singer, of course, we're going to be playing that during our metaverse and gaming topics. Today we've got a couple of good ones, and I think you're going to like them both. One is a mana breakdown, really taking a look at where the project is and also kind of the future of what mana might hold in the metaverse. And then also I'll be revealing one of our gaming portfolio updates to let you guys kind of see what's in the bag. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. This is, again, our series around metaverse, gaming, NFTs. We continue to explore this on the play to earn category. But also this is important for cryptocurrencies because most of these projects are deep in the blockchain and in many cases have a very clear relationship to the crypto markets, much like Mana in the essence of Metaverse and what you've seen with the Mana token. Just as a reminder, to do a rundown on Mana, if you were watching what was happening with Mana last fall, obviously Metaverse was really birthed on October 27th when Facebook did their announcement of changing their name and their focus to going to Meta. They have grown its users by 3,300%. So this is a pretty good information. Their population of roughly 800,000 registered profiles, which essentially is bigger than what Vegas is right now, I think. So, and of course, they kind of cut their teeth on the idea of casinos. And we'll get into some of that. We're actually going to do some gameplay for you guys today as well, kind of walk you around it, let you guys kind of take a look at it. They've got a whole slew of events we'll cover. We'll get into some of that stuff as well. Again, just jumping into some of the elements here, I want to jump to a story real quickly. Decentraland investing in Decentral Games to support Metaverse Poker. Again, this is a new one that happened last fall, but it shows their connection to what they're trying to do in the aspect of crypto casinos and crypto gaming in general, with casinos being the backdrop. I wonder to what extent Mana could become kind of like a mini Vegas in the sense of having that. The question will be is how far out, what other kinds of areas within the metaverse, so to speak, is designed around other aspects of life, whether it's, maybe we're going to see stuff more like on Sandbox where it's more entertainment. Maybe it's something that is more gameplay or achievement oriented, or maybe it's just sitting down at a card table and doing something like that. The other thing that I want to kind of stress on with Mana, and that has been kind of just its overall approach to the stock. I mean, or not the stock, but the actual chart itself. We'll take a look at that and kind of understand a little about where it's been going. I was looking at Mana. I want to just kind of jump to this one real quick, just to give you guys a quick view on it. This was one of our charts that we pulled. This was back in right here in December 15th. Sentiment was on, and again, remember this is a little bit more flat with Mana has not had massive moves. And at some points this is one of those that has been a good buy on if you're collecting Metaverse tokens. But December 15th, 7106, and the concern I had at that time was the 6837 amplification. That is something that if we continue to see that separate, and what you'll notice now with that chart is the 7237, which is a climb up from the 7106, and also the AMP score. And this one was pulled right here on January 5th. AMP score actually had climbed just a little bit. That tells me that we had the potential for a little bit of movement here, and in fact, that's what happened. I wonder how much movement we had on that since it's low right there. So already you're at 17% on the gain if you were able to catch this one at the dip. So that is a good example of what is happening with Mana in the sense of where this potential token can go. Now we saw and show this one around the middle of January, still holding it around $3.40. So it still has a potential to still maybe do some movement before we see a breakout. Again, granted, a lot of these kind of projects like this are going to be related to how Bitcoin and some of the blue chips are doing on the overall market. And that, in essence, will help drive that. So I think as we start to see more and more components, then I think you're going to really understand kind of where the metaverse in general is going to be going. And we do cover quite a few other metaverse topics here. Mana has been one that's been a little bit underserved. But overall, I think the kind of concept behind, if you're following metaverse tokens and metaverse projects, this is one of those that you probably should be paying attention to. Remember, too, that If you're new to the channel, and maybe this is the first time you've talked about or looked at cryptocurrency, or in general, maybe starting to look at metaverse and gaming, and we'll go through the portfolio and we'll also get into some gameplay, but just in general, what we're trying to do is give you an idea of where this project stands. Now, when you look at the registered users, you look at the activity inside the gameplay, all that kind of stuff, there's some definite potentials here, and I definitely want to show you some stuff around what they are doing with Samsung, which that is our next piece here. Samsung launches their Metaverse story in Decentraland. This was the piece. I thought that this right here would really take Mana up a notch or two in terms, because usually what we see with these kinds of programs like this, where you have major brands doing something that launches inside a metaverse like this usually indicates upward movement. And that could be a little bit of that 16% gain that we've seen over the last week or so. But in essence, this is going to be a metaverse story, is a replica of its real world shop situated. This is the one in New York City in the meatpacking district. So you'll get a chance to see that. We'll walk you around on that. Let me see if we can get over to some gameplay, and we'll take a look at just in general where that is going. And let's see here. Let's cut over to some gameplay and see if we can bring it in. We're going to switch it here just a bit. Might be able to bring it in right now. Here we go. All right. So this is the traditional environment. Obviously, you can kind of move around the whole metaverse, go to different sectors. You also have the capability of moving into some different aspects of the marketplace. This is what you're seeing right now are the events. And if we click into one of these events to give you kind of an idea, the loading time is one of the things that I'm kind of so on. Here's the Samsung store right behind us. So you can kind of see where there's some opportunities there. I think there are going to be some aspects of being able to go in and really see some branding elements for this. This is pretty cool here. I like the little bit of gameplay in there. And then they had, at the time, there was an event that they held that you could go in and collect certain things within this store. So this was kind of cool of where it kind of goes. So I like this. And the graphics, I'm kind of curious. When you guys are looking, and maybe you're doing gameplay today or not, I don't know if you are, but let's just hit in the comments below or hit in the comments on the side chat. Just let me know if you are in some of these games and you're gaming or you're not gaming. Just yes, I'm gaming, or no, I'm really just interested in the investment side. Because that's something that I'm always curious as to whether or not gameplay in blockchain is important enough for you guys to really kind of understand. Maybe it's, especially in play to earn, because play to earn obviously will start to show some pretty cool aspects of where gameplay is going. So you see some more graphics here on screen. Different events kind of up there on the leader on that billboard, which is kind of cool. I do see some brands starting to move into this. So that is one thing. And I want to go over to the casino too, because we're going to take a look at that. We'll flip out over to the casino in a second. But what you can tell by this is that the opportunity for branding is real. There is an opportunity here, I think, for commerce. Commerce is going to be a big factor in how much of what Decentraland is going to be doing in the future. Events, and back to the events, they are a very key aspect to Decentraland, very similar to, say, Fortnite. Also, the only concern I have right now is really around the high barriers of entry. That's one of the things, because one of the key elements of what you're seeing here on the gameplay footage is the modeling of the character, those kind of things. There are some elements that you need to understand around 3D modeling. They kind of have a drag and drop builder, but it's a little bit limited on how that you can do. Here you see the footage inside the casino. And again, I think this is, of course, going to be one of those things that we will start to see more and more casino and maybe more gambling opportunity of where you guys can actually engage in this. Another thing to be thinking about is what they need to do is really find some new ways to engage the landowners and create a simpler, or at some point make it reach its full potential. Because I think that's one of the challenges, again, versus, say, something like a Sandbox who's been able to really ramp up land sales and also in-game assets, because of the in-game asset side of things, especially on many of the projects that are going out there, and there's so many more. We just reported on Zilliqa coming out with their metaverse. Could be coming out this month. We're really interested on seeing what that's going to look like. We had Zilliqa on the show just the other day. If you have not checked out that video, make sure and do that. And I want to get a poll going real quick. And if you guys want to jump back, we'll jump back in a bit to some gameplay footage before we get to the portfolio. But I want to do a poll real quick on whether or not you're more interested in the Metaverse Rails project, so just the general architecture, so we'll just call that Metaverse, or if you're more interested in play to earn. And these would be from a token aspect. So Metaverse projects in general, or play to earn, meaning the gaming tokens themselves. So think, in essence, Sandbox, you look at Axie Infinity, you look at projects like Illuvium, all those kind of things. By the way, make sure and check out the video we just dropped today with Illuvium's CEO, Kira Warwick. It was an amazing conversation. If you are into Illuvium, and I know a lot of people are looking at that as a AAA potential for blockchain gaming, that was a really good interview. So make sure and check that one out to kind of get in there. The other thing that you have to be on the lookout with Mana is the prices of land. Pricing of land is still very expensive. And I think as we start to see land sales continue with what's going to happen in Decentraland, as they get going, this is going to be a big factor here. Over the past 30 days, their marketplace has processed 15 million GVM, collecting about $380,000 in fees. I want to cut to a shot right here. Let me zoom in on this for the guys so they can kind of get this off my screen. But this is a comparison right here of Decentraland and Roblox on their market cap at 6.5 billion, and then Roblox, of course, 49 billion. Revenue run rate 4.56 versus 2.4 billion. So you can kind of see it has some comparisons, but look at the revenue multiples at 1425x versus a 20x. Now, if you're into understanding, revenue multiples, valuations are often set, and this goes for the stock market, this goes for venture capital, startups. They're usually done on valuation of top line revenue. So when you see somebody, let's say they're doing $1 million and it's a 1425x, let's say it's a 10x, that's a $10 million valuation. That's something that is happening on an ongoing basis. But as we see more and more of these projects really break into the metaverse, the valuation of these, including market cap and all those kind of things, which is driving the token price, those kind of things really kind of continue to be pretty impressive. The other thing was the Metaverse Group is a virtual real estate investor. They're one of the largest developers in Decentraland, so I think we'll continue to see that become a factor in Decentraland itself on real estate in general. And that is something that I'm kind of interested in, because I do think this will start to create a bit of a model, whether it's through the guilds or potentially real estate plays that start to become something within the metaverse, because I think there are going to be some factors with that, whether it's Sandbox, whether we see this at some point when Axie starts to sell land, and with all the land sales that we have coming with things like Illuvium, which is going to be interesting to see. But it'll be intriguing to whether or not people are going to jump into those, or if we're just going to see that mostly from a brand standpoint. And hopefully we're going to get the poll here in a second. As a reminder, make sure and like this video if you love what you are seeing in terms of topics on the metaverse, really going into gaming, and also make sure and put some questions in the chat, and we'll try to get to some of those. Festivals and events, I think, are also going to be a big factor here on how and whether or not Decentraland can really kind of leverage into that next layer of success. That'll be the cool thing that I think people need to be watching. Is I think events will be one of the things that really kind of become the differentiator between winning or losing for some of these projects. Because if you think about events, you could have all kinds of live events, everything from comedy shows, entertainment, music, as well as gatherings, including education. So there could be quite a bit more opportunity there for sure. All right, so what are you more interested in? This is on our latest poll. Metaverse engine projects, 61% of you there. And then on play to earn, 38%. That's great. So that's good to know. And that's a good example of the things that are going to drive the metaverse. So that is a very, very cool thing that you guys are interested in. I like that because that's very important. It's some of my portfolio, and you'll see that here in a minute. We'll break that down, and we'll get into some questions. But you'll see that a lot of the metaverse components, the rails that run it, potentially are really going to be some of the most profitable projects out there. And again, I think some of these is going to be interesting to watch because the potential for growth is real. I want to jump over to the, let's jump over to the portfolio real quick. And this is the portfolio that we've been reporting on for a while. Now, this is one that I keep and continue, and mostly what you're going to see here is done by profit and loss. So I've got Sandbox, which is still my number one holding in terms of a game, as well as Illuvium. Illuvium is still a big one, even though I'm not, winning too much on that one. Illuvium is a tough one because I think, we've grabbed it at a little bit later in the game. When obviously if you caught it before its big skyrocket and didn't sell it, and then we saw this correction. So Illuvium's sitting there. I think this one is going to be going and flying pretty soon. Axie also just barely moving. And then Gala, which had a good move for me, mainly because we had really kind of come into that project a little early. My Neighbor Alice was one that we added early in our portfolio as well. I always keep BNB in there, and WaxP. Just as our engine protocols. Decentraland is there. That's one of my holdings in this particular portfolio. Doing okay, at 31% right now. And then you've got Game Starters. So that's another one that I think could become a big factor. This is where we get into a lot of the ones that are not doing well currently, but I have a feeling in many of these projects we'll start to see some movement. Mobox is one of those. Place War is another smaller game, small cap game. That I keep in this portfolio along with Gods Unchained. And you can kind of see some of these portfolios are down quite a bit, obviously. There's Rally, again, one of the more infrastructure projects. Star Atlas, Chromia, which we've talked about here on the channel before, almost flat now. And then Thetan Arena, which is one of the games that we've kind of been looking at for quite some time. Again, I think Thetan is going to be one of those that starts to pour out and do pretty well. But as you can see, this is kind of the status of where this particular portfolio and this is not really one of my high-risk portfolios. And I'm interested if you guys want to take a look at the high-risk portfolios. Again, those are usually going to be those low-cap gems that we discover and build. And then also the opportunity of being able to get into some of these really as, on an investment basis very early. And that's something that we continue to try to show. When we're building those high-risk portfolios, we'll usually do it with you. We started one last month in December, and we probably should do a video to revisit that one as well. Let's get into some questions and kind of go there with it. All right, so why don't I see much attention paid to Decentraland Games? It's the biggest casino and visitor attraction in Decentraland. Again, I think that's a good point, Wandering. And I don't understand this either with what is happening with Decentraland in terms of they seem to be losing the marketing more. Now, there could be a scenario also where there's just so much going on in play to earn and metaverse that Decentraland kind of gets pushed a little bit to the side. It just has not, outside of its initial growth, Mana is still one of those solid projects. Good team, great project economics. There's some great potential here, but I do agree with you. I think it's just a matter of time. Steven coming in, like a two-horse race, would you pick Mana or the Sandbox to be the winner over the long term? I still think Sandbox wins that. Long-term wise, if I had to bet on one, I would rather bet on both because there's some opportunity in terms of partnerships. Those are things you cannot really kind of guess at or even create any kind of assessment on whether a project's going to achieve something other than the team. Typically, the team can identify whether or not you're going to see some projects that start to come in. Let's go with Bobby. If Zilliqa stays true to its roadmap for the next 2 months, is it possible to 2x? Yeah, I think Zilliqa is one of those metaverse plays that if they roll this out, we will see. And timing is going to be very interesting here because of the fact that we've seen this little bit of a bump, both upwards here right now on Bitcoin, but also on many of the metaverse altcoins, etc. A little bit of a rise this week or towards the middle of the week. And it's still very early. If Zilliqa drops in January before the end of the month, could we see that kind of that energy kind of come back into it? We will be covering Zilliqa's drop when they do release the Metaverse. I'm hoping to bring Sandra back on, and we'll definitely get into there. Open box, I personally think sand is consuming mana. Okay, that's a good position. I think you're probably correct. And you might be right. That is one of those things. Now remember, there are scenarios here in many of these Metaverse projects, both on the Rails projects and the game projects, that many of these will go to zero in the bear market. Most likely, we will see several of these projects completely tank. So you need to be very cautious on these. If you get a good position on some of these and you have a chance to exit them, unless it's a major studio, they're continuously doing game releases or continuously doing growth in their Metaverse partnerships, then those are the ones I would put kind of back on the back burner. Remember, always kind of do the double check for all of the projects that you're invested in. Remember, we do these market movers like this. These are not investment advice. The idea is we're going to give you data and insights, not something that we're going to, that I would suggest as financial advice. This gives you just some research to kind of get you going the right direction. But one thing I would do is really stay true to a format of understanding whether or not something is long-term. Always look at, well, to a certain extent, the tokenomics. Some of this valuation is going to be a little bit out of queue, much like when you look at something on the stock market that's way past their fundamentals in terms of value. Things like GameStop, you look at Tesla, etc. Same kind of thing happens in blockchain. But I would say always look at the team. Always look at those partnerships, because the partnerships are usually going to be long-term, and the opportunity for growth in terms of how their audience or their social communities are growing. And you can do that with a tool called Social Blade. It's really simple. Just go do a comparison, go to Social Blade. You can compare a Twitter volume against Mana and Sandbox, and you can kind of see their growth and see who and which one. And you can do that with almost any project out there, so it's pretty easy to do. Christian, what do you think about Star Atlas? We've had Star Atlas on the show before. Michael's been on with us, and it's again, this is one of those monster projects, play to earn, really big. Star Atlas is I believe they did a suit sale not too long ago. So, but they're coming along. I think they are a little bit further. I think their roadmap still shows end of 2022 for gameplay. So I'm kind of interested in that one. Timmy, your thoughts on UFO? UFO is another one that I hold. It's another big gaming project that I think has great potential. And if you haven't been in UFO, hopefully you got UFO on the dip, because that was a really great buy and an opportunity, I think, for you to maybe make some profits here. I think that one's going to move very nicely. Gambling is going to, let's go with Howard. Gambling is going to cause major government involvement. I do think that will be the case in the metaverse in general, but regulation is going to happen anyway. And a lot of people have asked this whole situation around advertising, because that's been kind of the big deal. There's been a lot of regulation on advertising, like in the UK for crypto. I think it was crypto.com. And one thing to remember, when you have these edgier projects like crypto, they are risky, and you have to just, when you're advertising, those risk levels have to be, they have to be conveyed. And one thing that happens in the gambling side is people always say, well, it's kind of like gambling, to a certain extent. I wouldn't call it gambling, because some of these projects are much better, but some are very gambling-esque. But the difference is that gambling is, in all cases, regulated. And because it's regulated, we'll continue to see those kind of things. So I think the next step is, if we see some light regulation in both metaverse, crypto gaming, and crypto in general, all this stuff is coming down the pipe. That's a good thing. I think overall it's going to be a good one for you guys to go. Top 3 metaverse projects. Again, it would depend if I'm going back into the Rails, because I still like things like Render Token, Arweave, Chromia, different projects that go in that direction. But at the same time, you've got Sandbox, you've got Axie, which is going to be doing land sale. They have yet to really launch their true metaverse. And you've got a lot of evolution coming within other games that are eventually going to kind of tie the pieces all together. And then you've got some of these outliers, like the Zilliqa deal could be a very interesting one, and I'm continuously watching those movements, because I think there's so much action in the space right now. And again, we've talked about this before, 2022, metaverse gaming, going to be some big ones for juicy gains out there. as it goes. What do you think about Harmony One? I've been staking and very interested in the platform, also looking at ILV. So if you bought Illuvium at $800 when it had hit the bottom, you're already seeing some nice gains in a short period of time. And as far as Harmony One, we have had that one on our list for quite some time. I still continue to like Harmony. We probably should do a breakdown on Harmony and do a full token analysis, including one of our sentiment arrays to take a look at that for sure. But I like that one. Can we get a Polygon update? A lot of updates in the works from Bobby. That's a good one. Thank you for reminding me, Bobby, because we do need to get back to Polygon. That's a big one because we are seeing Layer 2 protocols really start to make their way into other deals, other projects that are really making that value, those partnerships, and I think also the direction for Polygon. And of course, if you're invested in Polygon right now, you're up again. So we've started to see some movement, and here recently, prior to the little flash dip that we had last week and early this week, Polygon was really moving fast and hard. Anil, Blocktopia, yeah, it's there. But one thing with Blocktopia that I've continued to see is their sentiment numbers are continuing to slide. I don't know if they're seeing less and less people that are interested in it, or if there's a community scenario that, it's just eventually sometimes people just move on to other projects. If you don't keep things relevant and constantly changing and rolling out on your timeline and your roadmap, those things can be a little bit of a problem. It's not that I'm buying and holding Blocktopia, but I would definitely be taking a harder look on that when there's so many other projects that are out there. All right, so Steven, you picked up Chromia and My Neighbor Alice. Great. And I'm interested to see where they go. You're in a good position, I think. Chromia and My Neighbor Alice. Alice is up again. And I think Chromia, just that partnership, they've got it going in the right direction. Lots happening in that space. I think we will continue to see that. Thanks for the super chat. Crow, I hold Crow, looking to buy more. If you're not a crypto.com user, that's a good one right there. Thanks for the super chat. What's your thought on Everlens? Is it possible future? We had a quick mention on Everlens, and we've kind of had people back and forth on that one. And I still think that someone's going to come out with the Instagram for NFTs. It will happen. Now, Everlens has been one of those that is kind of the first mover. My concern with Everlens is going to be if Facebook, Meta, decides to go this direction. If they go this direction, it could put Everlens in kind of a bad situation unless they do an acqui-hire or something like that. That could happen in those kind of scenarios. I think we will see that too with Meta, meaning Facebook, because if you look back, just go to their Wikipedia of their acquisitions over the past, say, year and a half. If you look back all the way to 2019, they've been really leveraging down on gaming, metaverse, and kind of the whole idea of what this new and next generation developers will bring. Any thoughts on Solana Metaverse portals? Solana is going to have a couple of things that need to really happen. You've seen SoulChicks, you've seen a handful of other projects that have created some congestion problems with Solana. They have addressed it to a certain extent, but at the same time, for them to be able to jump to, when you get into portals and things of that nature, you're going to see masses come. And just like if you look at the growth of Decentraland, those kinds of masses and mass adoption create stress on those environments. And if you're really not ready for that stress, then that's a problem. So you need to be thinking about those things. All these developers are ahead of this. The key is that we don't really have mass adoption in any of this. And I think as we see this roll out before long, is that it's going to take some time for that kind of go to the next level. Now, that's going to end our live stream today. But anyway, thanks again for stopping in. I think I just ran out of fluid. So hopefully you guys are going to continue to watch in. Just jump to the Diamond Circle if you have not joined in. Make sure and get in on that. It's absolutely free and easy for you guys to jump in. If you have and want to reach out to me, just hit me up on Twitter @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechRat.